Nice to connect. How's your day going?
Good, good so far. How about yourself?
No complaints here from Long Island. Are you dialing in from the Philadelphia area or you're on tour with the Joan Jett crew still?
No, no. Joan actually moved her dates to next year, so we didn't get to continue or do anything with her actually this year. But I'm at home. I'm in Jersey. I'm in South Jersey.
Okay, so that's actually something I'm super curious about. The connection to Wicked Cool Records,
Mhm.
you know, the former co-writes that you did with JBJ.
Mhm.
What's the Jersey connection there? Is it that they picked you out of seeing you at the Stone Pony or something like that?
Nope, never. I think we played Stone Pony one time, but it was well after I'd done the co-writes. I honestly, it was the strangest turn of events. My band was out in California touring. We literally lost the guitarist the week before, and we're out there with like a sub player, like a player that lived out there.
Yeah.
But what happened was right before I went out there, little Steven Van Zandt had heard a song that I co-wrote with this producer at the time called Runaround. And it was kind of in the vein of like Gloria,
Yeah.
with that intention of getting that sound and that vibe. He ended up hearing it because our producer worked with John Bon Jovi, and Steven was at a Bon Jovi show. And he gave him the song, and he said, "This might be your cup of tea." And the next day, little Steven called him, and I had a meeting with him for like 3 hours. And he just wanted to know if I was interested in writing that style of music, or it was a one off, or if I was a songwriter or a singer. What was I? But he loved the voice, he loved the song. So he stayed in touch. And then after that, we went out to California. Like I said, we lost the guitarist the week before, like literally a week after
Right.
that, out in California. And we were playing these shows, and Wes Scanlon from Puddle of Mud heard our demo, just happened to walk into the Rainbow. Our merch girl was giving demos out to everybody, called us at 5 in the morning, wanted to showcase us, wanted to sign us to his independent label with his major distributor. It was the weirdest thing. It was like the 80s, where you hear the stories from the 80s. You know what I
Right.
mean? I was like, this isn't real. So ended up showcasing there. Then John Bon Jovi calls and asks us to open up for him at his hometown birthday show in Philadelphia, and we do. And right after that, he's like, "I'm going to write a record with you." I don't know. It's rock and roll. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it just continues to get weirder. So,
That is the most organic response I could have expected. I thought that it was going to be, well, we have the same attorney as blank.
nope.
And no, there you go. Wow,
Really
that's
random.
great.
And on top of that, it was like bang, 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 like three in a row. It's like I wrote this song. Steven Van Zandt was interested. Then John was like, "What's going on there?" And then Wes Scantlin just happened to hear our demo when we were just out there playing,
Right.
and was interested. And then from there, John asked. It was like one after another. It was like a domino effect. It was just a good time, and it was the start of a lot of good things for us.
Right. Well, speaking of good things, Tight Lipped, great charting single that you've had there. When was that written in relation to Dig Your Roots? Because Dig Your Roots is a 2020 album, if I've done my research correctly. Dig
Yes.
that album per se. But did you have that in the can or was that actually finished after?
Yeah, that was finished after. That was us trying to be proactive about songwriting, because typically the way we do it is we'll write an album, we'll go
Mhm.
and record, and then we go on tour. And we usually don't touch writing again until we're off tour. And our touring is so sporadic that we're almost never off tour. So we were like, you know what? In January and February, and this is in 2020, before the album, Dig Your Roots was finished recording in 19. So we said, like, let's start writing the next album now. And this is literally like a month or two before COVID hit, knowing we were going to be on the road in February and March, supporting the album coming out in March. So we just got together here at my place, and me and my co-writer Travis Smith got together, and we just started banging out Tight Lipped. And we didn't even know it was going to be called. For like, I had words before I had a title line, which is odd.
Mhm.
Never, I don't usually come up with like a title line and then write around it. I usually, like Erica Badu calls it downloading. I just get all these ideas, or somebody will say something. I'll be like, whoa. And I just put it in my phone for later. And Tight Lip just came to me. I'd been reading like Shakespeare, which I was terrified of reading Shakespeare. And I was like, I'm going to read Shakespeare. I didn't like how Ophelia's end came in Hamlet. So I was like, let's rewrite that. So I kind of started there, and then Tight Lipped came from that. So
You're the rare creative person I'm aware of who studied Shakespeare and Baduism. It's
Yeah.
it's usually one or the other per se, but
I'm a
um,
music literature nerd,
sure.
in all
Uh,
honesty.
but a compliment, and there's no but attached to this. A compliment to you is your songs are really well crafted in that there's a few hooks in there. It's not like you just have to wait to the chorus because you've been bored per se. There's usually a guitar hook, there's usually a pre-chorus hook, there's usually a chorus hook. So there's two schools of thought with that. I'm curious which one you fall into. The first one is that every song that you write takes weeks to write because you painstakingly make sure that each section is perfect. And then the other one is no, first gut reaction. This is how it's done. We write them in 10 minutes. Which one are you?
I've I'm of both schools of thought, in all honesty, because I've been told, like, if you can't write a song in 10 minutes, then it's probably crap and you overthought it. I've been told that. I think every song is different. I've sat and written a song with Steven Van Zandt in a few hours that people loved. And then I've also sat and spent 3 or 4 sessions with Travis, like on Tight Lipped was not a one and done. We spent a lot of time on that, and not on purpose. It's just each song just requires something else of you. But if I automatically judge it's going to be one or the other, it's crap because it took longer, then it doesn't really get a chance to get some air. And a lot of songs don't really hit their stride till they're recorded, and some of them fall apart when they're recorded. For me, that's been my experience. I don't know about other artists, but like Tight Lipped came out, the recording came out better than I had hoped for. You know what I mean? I didn't have an expectation with it. I just was surprised that the recording. Sometimes I'm surprised when the recording matches my desire for this, because there's so many hands on it. There's production on it, ideas from production. There's the guitarist's opinion of the riff. But Travis, my co-writer, I've written with for like 8 or 9 years now. He's in the band. He's the bass player, but he knows he's a great riff writer. And from his riffs, I get ideas about lyrics. So it kind of works really well. And I'm comfortable there because when he writes something, I immediately think of something to write.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, if I'm really trying to force it, like he might send me 50 ideas and there'll be one that I'm like, oh, I got a whole song built around this. It's kind of like you got to just step out of the way. I think, who always said this? Was it Nick Cave or Tom Waits? One of them said, I think it's Tom Waits. He's like, you just got to be in the room and step out of the way and let the gods of music take over. And I like that thinking, because each song is different. You can't, some things just spill out. Like,
Mhm.
the one artist who used to always just, it was just amazing. And he'd throw stuff against a wall, and other ones spend like pre-plan and plan and plan. And so I think I've been both schools at different times, and with different songs. Like on the same album, I might be done with a song in one day. It also depends where I'm at. Like if I'm writing and I just started writing, I spend a little more time on it than if I'm like on like the 10th or 11th or 12th song that we've been writing in succession. I'm like, all right, that's good enough, like, kind of thing. And sometimes those songs end up being the best ones. So
Mhm.
I think it really depends on the song is my final answer.
Goes both ways. So some artists that I speak with, when if they have 12 songs on their album, they probably wrote 13 because the 12 plus the Japanese bonus track per se. But it sounds like you write a lot more than you use. What happens to that leftover material? Does it just rot in a demo file? Do you try and give it to other artists as an outside writer?
No, no, I've never done that. There's only a few songs that actually never got recorded past the demo stage, and most of them they come back, they come back, they come back, and if they start haunting you, then you record them. But I think most of the songs we write do get recorded. I think if they don't, then they, like I said, they usually come back and poke at you for a minute. Like they definitely have their own life, I think, because like they just won't leave you alone. It's like the good idea that won't leave you alone. Like I'm a pretty lazy person by nature, so only with singing and band stuff and like songwriting have I been. And even that, if I didn't have a co-writer, I wonder if I would write at all. Like if I didn't have people like pressuring me with ideas, I might just be like, you know what, I'm going to sit in front of the TV and watch Netflix for 8 days. So, but it's like the stress of getting the song and being like, what'd you do? Did you hear it? What'd you think? Like, I start moving on it. So yeah, I think most of our stuff has eventually been recorded. And even if it's been released just as like a fan only thing, we've done it on lathe cut, some of those songs. So there's just a quicker turnaround time. but pretty much you're going to hear it at a show, or you're going to have it in your hands, one or the other, or on your earbuds or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
So 2022, you mentioned at the top of the conversation, the Joan Jett touring is rescheduled to 2022.
Yeah.
Album, this Tight Lipped is part of an album that's coming out in 2022. Can we confirm that?
Yes, definitely. We have like 3 singles coming out before the album too. So we have a ton of new music coming out next year. We have 2 digital singles releasing, one at the very beginning of the year in January and one in early March. And then we have a vinyl single coming out, and then the album on vinyl and CD coming out after that, all in 2022. So, yep. Lots of new music. 2 of the singles that are coming out early next year were just recorded in Stockholm. And we were just there and had the luxury of this producer who I'd been talking to. And he's like, let's just record a couple songs. So we recorded a couple songs and they came out fantastically, which, not that I didn't expect that, but I just didn't have an expectation, I should say. And they came out well. So we're going to release them too with Wicked Cool. So it's all good.
Do you get any downtime between now and that all happening? Do you get to take time off for the holidays?
Oh yeah. I haven't seen my family in like 2.5 years. My dad's side of the family lives in Egypt, so I'm going to Egypt at the end of the year. I was like, if I don't take time off, I'm going to be burnt out already. Like, we only really started back in June, and it was very slow. And then come September, we started touring a little more. And then there was that iffy time where people were like canceling tours. You're like, well, should we do it? We have such a small touring group that it doesn't matter. Like, we just kept going. And, I'd say it got really busy around October, and we're going through the first week in December, and then we're off for the rest of the year. And our next show, I think, is January 8th in Atlantic City.
The last thing I'm super curious about, what was the gateway artist for you as a hard rock fan? Can't tell that just by listening to your music per se. And obviously your influences are all over the place in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's one gateway. I think Joan Jett has been my example for everything, how to do it, how to just not stop, whether you have a hit on the radio or not. Like, you just keep going, and you believe, then you just follow your belief. So she's been kind of a gateway artist and business person, although I don't think she'd like that term. But I definitely look at her as a great example in all those areas. Little Steven definitely has helped me immensely just by being associated with him. I get to watch how he works, what he does on a daily basis, and how he doesn't think in terms of I can't or what's the problem in getting this. He just goes, and he's just like surprised if there's any problems. I'm like, that's a good way to look at life right there. Like, instead of anticipating, like, there's this saying, like, anticipate joyfully or not at all. And I think he emulates that in what he does. But like, taking time off is difficult for me. So it's good to see them both doing that too, and being, putting personal things in their lives. But I'd say, like, just great songs have always been a gateway for me. When I hear a song that's changed my life just from hearing it, and that's such an intangible, I don't know how to put that in words, but everybody's probably had that experience, I hope. That makes you want it more and more and more. So you want to just keep writing and have something to say. And yeah, so I would say Joan Jett if you have to pick one.
Joan Jett, who lives on my block here in Long Beach, Long Island, New York. When you get the rare Joan Jett sighting, it's like seeing a rare bird, and you go, oh, there's Joan. There per se. And did you know her? Did you know her before the tour happened? How did you first encounter Joan, by the way?
Well, I was always a huge fan, and actually a fan of ours said, who would you want to meet if you could meet anybody? And I was like, Joan Jett, right? So he invited me and my drummer, Brianna, to a show that she was playing at. And here, unbeknownst to me, Meryl Laguna, who is part of the Kenny and Meryl Laguna, are part of Blackheart
Kenny
Records.
Laguna, yeah.
Yeah, so she'd been a fan of ours since Love Like Voodoo came out, which was our first radio single in 2013, like Sirius XM radio. And so he, I guess, contacted her. She was a fan, and she's like, bring him backstage. So we went backstage, and she's like, oh, and she's like, don't ever stop. You've got a great voice. And it was just inspiring, that part. And then she's like, I don't think Joan's meeting anybody today. And I didn't even expect to meet Joan. And I was like, oh, I'm just here for the show. I'm just excited I even, got to talk to you. And then like a couple minutes later, somebody came out and was like, "Where's the Soraia girls?" And we're like, "Here." And they're like, "Come back." So I ended up meeting Joan. And the funny thing is, I still didn't know we were supposed to meet her. I thought we were just going backstage to wait for Meryl or something. And we were in this room and like Meryl waved me to come out, and I come out and I see Joan. I ran back in the room because I thought, I don't know why, but my natural instinct was to run away from her. And because I thought I wasn't supposed to see her or meet her. She didn't want to meet anybody, whatever. So then Meryl's like, come back out here. And I ended up talking to her and I told her she saved my life, which was completely humiliating. But she had a really good talk with me. She's like, "You're just doing what I did then. You're just doing it now." Like she really was like a one-on-one, very personal person. And like right after that, little Steven was having a Underground Garage sponsored show, and they needed an opener, and it was Joan Jett was the main act, and I opened for her. And after that, we started doing some shows with her here and there, her birthday show and another show. And then they gave us some shows this year that were actually from last year that were rescheduled and now are going to be rescheduled to next year. But eventually we will be together again. So, but to be honest, I've only actually interacted with Joan that time. And, you know, when she's walked by to get on stage, she's like, "You ready to rock?" And I'm like, yeah, that's about our interaction level. So we come in, we do our thing, and we jet out. That's what we do. So
if I've learned one thing from our conversations, that you are an artist's artist. So whatever you're doing, keep it up, and hope to see you live in New York in the near future.
Yep, definitely will. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Happy holidays there.
Bye, Darren.
Paltrocast.